Decided I forgot my own chair. It's okay. I'll just stand. Just kidding. I don't want to do that. That's awful. Okay, so, hey, Brett, how are you, man? Tony? Brett, you look good. Hi, Armin. Hi, Heather. Do you guys want to hear a crazy story before I introduce everyone? Do you guys know when I gave my life to Jesus, I was 18 years old, and then I turned 19 like just a month later. Or no, I actually was 19. And Heather's like my spiritual mom. Heather like let me come to her house almost every single day, eat all her food, hang out with her kids. They were my age, so don't worry, it's not weird like that. And Heather knew me when I had hair, like really nice hair, flowy hair. Thank you. Hey, so why don't we go down the line here? Just introduce yourself. Tell us just a little bit about yourself. Just got to flip the knob up. You should be good. Yeah. No, it'll be. You got it, Diego? We good. Everyone, give a shout out to Diego tonight on sound. So here we go. I think we're good. All right. Do you want to try, Heather?
Huh? Is it on?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Awesome. What am I doing?
Introduce yourself and a little bit about you and what you do. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Heather Taylor, and I have been at Canyon Creek and now Venture for however old the church is, because we were here from the beginning and love it, and obviously we've loved it, otherwise we'd be somewhere else. I am currently a therapist, and so I work at a place in Edmonds called The Center, and it's a partial inpatient place where people can go for intensive therapy when they're struggling with addictions, anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, self-harm, anything. And then I also work 2 days a week in Snohomish at the Snohomish Apothecary and Wellness Center. And I'm one of the people in the Wellness Center, so I'm one of the 3 counselors there. So.
Awesome. And how long have you been doing counseling therapy now? Or?
Well, I just graduated in June, but I was counseling prior to that in an internship, and then I was part of the pastoral staff here, so I was doing pastoral counseling for quite a few years.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for a while, but licensed only since October.
Heather's met with probably every single person in our church at some point and counseled them, including me. So, yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll help you out. Next.
Hi, I'm Armaine.
Armaine.
I'm a registered nurse at Evergreen Health. I'm married to my best friend. I've been a nurse for about 3 years now. I don't know what else you wanted to know.
Tell us a little bit like your hobbies. What do you and your? I know you guys are big Trader Joe junkies. You and your husband.
What?
Trader Joe's. How often do you guys go?
Oh man, Trader Joe's knows us by our faces, and it's kind of embarrassing, but it's actually kind of cool. We go there every Thursday after work at like 6 o'clock.
I love Trader. Anyone else love Trader Joe's? Yeah. Come on, Trader Joe's got everything. Next. You just keep talking. Just keep talking.
Hi, I'm Carson Yonker. I'm a senior at Mariner High School, or I guess Zoom meetings at home for right now. This is my 12th year in schooling. I don't have a job right now. I currently attend my bed almost daily.
Way to hang in there.
Hobbies, I like to play soccer. I'm big into that. Coming to youth. And eventually I want to become a therapist or a counselor and like major in psychology. So, yeah.
Nice. Last but not least, Heather, can we get you a table? Do you need a table or something? You good? All right. Last but very not least.
Cool. My name's Brett. I have been going to Venture for like 5 years now and been in youth for 3 or 4 of those years. I sell homes for a living. That's pretty much it. Is that good, Tone?
Brett.
What hobbies do I like? I really like fantasy sports. I have a very boring life. I play all the fantasy sports.
Brett, do you remember when you were single?
Yeah, I'm not single anymore.
No, Brett's not single anymore, everybody.
I'm also not single
God
anymore.
still works.
So.
God answers prayer.
Yeah, my girlfriend's actually back there. She's sitting in the back.
Is Taylor here?
She is.
Oh my
She's in the
gosh.
back. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how God still
Amen.
does miracles, folks?
Amen.
Still works
God
miracles.
works miracles.
Miracle working God. Yes, he is. Well, hey, I want to just kick us off. We are getting blown up with questions already, so go ahead, keep submitting your questions. No questions are bad questions, so that is okay. Keep asking. I just want to say this. I feel like I don't need to sit up here and recite to you all the research behind 2020. Obviously, we've seen crazy numbers in just spikes in, and not just COVID itself, but like in depression, anxiety, loneliness. And honestly, I before we even move on, I just got to thank you guys. Your generation is going to have a grit to them and like a tenacity, maybe different than any other generation, because you guys will have learned how to have life in a pandemic. No one else has learned how to have life in a pandemic since 1918. So you guys have figured out how to go online and how to navigate that, and you're still here. So that's huge. So shout out you for just a moment. Can we just dive right in? So the way this is going to work is I'm just going to ask a couple questions, and whoever feels they want to answer, go ahead. I might have to keep us moving along though a little bit because we are just getting lit up with questions right now. So let's just begin with mental health. There's a stigma recently, or not recently, but there's just always been the stigma back, like if you're a man, you can't really get emotional. You're supposed to be a man, and also that mental health it was the stigma. It was like touchy feeling. You don't talk about your mental health, but I feel like it's just such a prevalent part of our life. It's literally how we function is from our mental health. We can't shove it down or suppress it. Why does mental health matter so much? I would just love to hear anyone's thoughts on that.
We're all looking at me.
Heather's up.
We have a licensed therapist here, so we're gonna.
Well, mental health is important because it kind of dictates your behaviors, right? So if you're not feeling good mentally, your feelings, the bodily sensations you're going to feel are going to be uncomfortable, and usually then that dictates some maladaptive behaviors. So that's a lot of the times where people start, developing addictions. That's where, self-harm might start. That's where isolation might start. And so mental health is important, and being proactive about your mental health is super important, which is what I love about this millennial generation, is that you guys are more in touch with your feelings, and you're talking to each other, and you recognize the importance of community and sharing your feelings, and you're taking away that stigma that Tony was talking about, and you're saying it's okay to go and get support when you start to, feel bad. And so I applaud you guys because you're making my job a heck of a lot easier because you're talking about it with each other, and you're pushing each other to go see a counselor, go talk to a pastor, go confide in a youth leader. You're getting the help you need. And so I think you guys are going to be making that change that we've needed for a very long time.
Yeah, that's so good. Not a lot of people in this room are my age or went to high school during my time, but it was like weird to handle your emotions. You were dubbed weird. You were dubbed emo if you were emotional and wanted to talk about your emotions. So a lot of us, we suppressed it, and we ended up having depression and anxiety and whatnot because we didn't know how to steward it. So, yeah. Anyone else got anything to say about that, or? Okay.
Kind of covered it all.
You got a couple?
The only thing I can add, I guess, is it also affects your relationships with others, friendships, relationships, and however you take that with your mental health. If you're struggling personally, it's definitely going to reflect in your actions and how you treat others and how others think of you as well.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of the questions coming in thus far are about isolation. Obviously, this is a season where a lot of people feel isolated. We even have a lot of students watching online tonight. Mom and dad asked you to stay home, which totally respect and I appreciate, but how do you not feel isolated during a pandemic? What do you do to not feel so alone in this season?
As a nurse, I'm literally with everyone all day long, but honestly, when the pandemic, when this whole thing started, I honestly felt alone, even though I'm married and Johnny's always there with me. I just felt like no one understood what I was going through when it came to work, and how I got out of that, feeling and feeling isolated from everyone is I actually took initiative and started talking to friends that I haven't talked to in a while. And I would text them. Some of them didn't respond, but some of them would be like, hey, how are you? And I would actually say, can I call you on my day off? And I would actually take that initiative to talk to someone. Like, I know it's awkward. I know some of you guys don't like to physically talk on the phone, but it honestly helps. Like, even if it's on FaceTime, like seeing someone's face, even if it's from an electronic device, actually helps lift you up. That and, pick up a hobby and actually text a friend about it. That way you guys can discuss about it. Like, how's your art doing? Or how's your reading doing? And that's really helped me get out of that kind of feeling.
Yeah, I do feel like a lot of people have picked up hobbies in this season and have found a community behind their hobby. Ariel has gotten into online shopping and has found a community in Nicole and Stephanie. So, and my hobby was Fortnite all of a sudden. So, no, don't applaud that. I'm 29. I shouldn't be doing that. Anyone else? How would you handle isolation in this season, or what are you doing to, I guess, go at it, or yeah?
Well, for anybody who thinks that isolation is good, like all you introverts who think, hey, no, this is a good thing, I'm just going to tell you, even the most introverted introvert is still wired for community. That's how God made us, and so we have to have connection with people. It's neurologically important for us to connect with people, and it's important for us to connect with people in person. So simple things that we adopted, we have one adult child still at home, and we instituted family dinner. And so the three of us have dinner every single night together just so we connect with one another. I'm an extrovert, and so I really struggled in the pandemic when it first started and went into a really big depression and cried for, I think, about 5 days straight. And so what I started doing was calling people and saying, I know it's March, but can we put on our down, coats and big boots, and can we sit 6 feet apart at a coffee shop outside and just talk?
Wow.
So I started making those appointments. I had to be proactive, and I had to start looking for connections because otherwise I was going to wither. And so that helped me a lot.
That's really good. Yeah, I'm being intentional with that. I think also, too, just picking up the phone, like Armaine said, your phone is not just for apps. It's a phone to call people. And I think I made a habit, and during COVID, I FaceTime 2 people a day, every day, regardless of what day, except for Saturday. Saturday is really dedicated to my family, but other than that, I try to FaceTime 2 people a day just to be connected with them and hang out with them. Is it okay if I just keep us going? We are getting blasted. This is really good. Can we move a little bit towards stress and anxiety? What is the difference between I feel stressed and I have anxiety? Like, I'm really anxious. A lot of the questions coming in are about anxiety attacks. How do you prevent them? What do you do? And so, sorry, that's a really big question. So, difference between stress, anxiety, and then maybe, Heather, you could probably answer this one for us. How do I handle before I know an anxiety attack is coming, or what to do through it? So, yeah.
We label it as that, and we give it more power than we need to. So like stress and anxiety, there's a huge difference, right? Like, I have a very stressful job. I'm on my phone 24/7. I work 10 to 12 hours a day. I am stressed constantly, right? But that doesn't mean that I'm anxious all throughout the day. And I think even just deciphering that can help give less power to the anxiety.
Thank you. Can someone maybe give a definition? What is depression? Because I think you said it, Brett. It's a term we use so flippantly now. And I don't know, are we just convinced we just have depression? Like, what's the difference between, like, actual clinical depression, I have depression, and really, what do you do when you feel so hopeless, when you feel like there is no way out of it? And the reason why I brought the 3 of you guys here with us, too, is you've all experienced it to a point. I've experienced that where you think, you're convinced there's no hope. And that is a lie from the enemy. Like, that is a lie from the devil himself. And there is hope, and his name is Jesus. But as much as we could just say his name, what does that actually look like in our lives too? So, what is depression? Loaded question. Have at it.
I'll go first. And I don't know all the definitions, so Heather can do. I can just speak from my own experience. But I'm 27 years old now, and I really started struggling with depression when I was 19 in college. I started seeing a counselor when I was 20. I was on medication up until 2 years ago, and have seen a counselor pretty much off and on. I actually have gone to the same place that Heather works. I think the biggest thing is, as somebody who has a chemical imbalance, who needed medication for a certain period of time to help normalize what's going on, the hardest part of someone who battles with depression is hearing everyone say, I struggle with depression. And almost normalizing it, right? And it made me feel like I was I don't know, I really struggled with hearing, all my friends would be like, oh, I'm depressed. And I'm like, well, I think I'm actually depressed right now. Is everyone just like me? And I think the biggest way that I knew I was depressed was depression. It goes beyond just feeling sad, right? I mean, you can feel sad certain days of the week. I think depression really moves to a serious level when you just start to feel nothing. And there's a big difference between being sad and waking up and being like, oh, today sucks. Where when you wake up and you don't feel anything, that's when it starts to get super scary. That you can't get sad, that you can't make yourself cry, that you can't make yourself, and that was when I started waking up and feeling that, that's when I realized I needed help, right? I needed to go see a doctor, I needed to go talk to somebody because I was beyond just being sad, right? I was struggling with depression at that point. So I don't know, for me at least that was kind of how I deciphered that, I don't know, through my experience.
And then
Yeah.
I'll piggyback on that. I agree with Brett. I too struggled with depression, which is kind of I've battled depression for 11 years. I didn't realize what it was up until I was 16 years old. And basically, I just thought I was just this person that woke up every single day and just didn't have any emotion whatsoever. I felt that sadness, this deep sadness when my mom passed away when I was 9, and I didn't know what it was. And I carried it along, and I had this heavy weight on my shoulders. And it wasn't until 16 years old where I went to a doctor, and they were like, how are you? And I just kind of stared at them, and I was like, I don't know. And my dad then was just like, well, tell them. And I was like, I don't know how I'm feeling. I wake up and I feel nothing. And it's sad to think about it now, but, I carried it till I got married to Johnny, actually. The first year of our marriage was so hard because I was going through it still, because I still didn't let that go and give it to God.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I was like, wow, I'm married, this is my husband, but I still woke up and I just felt so numb inside. And it wasn't until I actually I'm 24, as I turned 21, I found myself in the middle of our bedroom. I locked Johnny out and I just wept. And just wept. I don't remember how long I cried for, but I just told God, I was like, God, I don't know what this is anymore, but it's taken over my life to where I don't know how to love myself, and I don't know how to love the people around me. I started to actually physically hate myself, and I would look at myself in the mirror you can't love anyone. If you can't love anyone, then you can't love yourself. And it's a debilitating thing, and that's why when people say, what Brett was saying, when they throw that word around, it's not just a word that you shouldn't label yourself. There's a deep sadness and there's depression, and I would hate for you guys to just say that you're depressed, because, I would hate for anyone to go through depression, and, but if you are, I would honestly, take care of it as soon as possible. Don't be like me and wait literally a decade of your life to finally, seek help and actually tell people that you're going through it.
That's, yeah. Heather?
So clinical mental health disorder, according to the CDC, is characterized by persistently depressed mood. And so that's for a long period of time, and that's consistent. It's not hey, I'm having a good day, I'm having a bad day. Hey, she didn't, she got back together with me, and so I'm having a great day. The week's good, and then it's a consistent mood that they're talking about. And it can be characterized with loss of interest in the things that once, held some interest. And then if it's causing significant impairment, if you're literally not able to get out of bed and go to work, to a job that you might actually like, or you can't concentrate, or they were talking about, you don't feel anything at all, and then that's leading to self-harm so that you know you can feel something, that's when you definitely need to come and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And like I said, we are wired for community. You have to talk to somebody. That's the only way you're going to get the support you need, because you can't just get this out alone, because you don't want, like Armaine was saying, to spend 11 years struggling. If you can turn and get some help now.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, for all of you, can you just hold the microphone just a little closer when you talk to your mask? Thank you. A couple questions saying, some people were saying, hey, I used to, and I promise we're going to take this in a more positive tone here soon. I have a lot of people are saying, my friend is depressed. How do I love my friend, and how do I be there for my friend when they're going through depression? A lot of texts about that tonight.
I'll go ahead and start. One of the hardest parts of being a friend of someone who has depression is if it's like really serious, a lot of the time the person won't want help. They'll mention it to you because they're close to you, but they don't want help. And so one of the hardest parts is being such a good friend that you can start to provide them that help, start talking to them, start not just talking to them individually, because you're going to be probably similar age. You don't have a lot of the expertise that like professionals will, like Heather, as she's done this for like a profession. And so starting to move to more like trusted adults and eventually to a therapist, counselor, etc. And being by that friend every step of the way, because a lot of the time, as I mentioned, they don't want help, and they're actually going to be quite upset and frustrated with you because they don't want help and you're providing it, and that's not what they want. But no matter kind of what they say, stick by their side, be with them through and throughout it, and in however long it takes, like it could take months, it could take years, eventually they'll look back and appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. So a few actually questions are saying, hey, I used to have depression, feel like I'm good, but I feel like it's beginning to creep back into my life. What do I do to address that? Heather, I'd love to hear from you. How do I go through that again if I feel those depressive thoughts are coming back into my life?
I think one of the first things you need to do is when you recognize that it's beginning to creep back in, get it before it creeps too far. So do something right away. Talk to somebody. And also, I would say if you are ever at a point where you feel like I can't do this anymore and I don't want to do this anymore, that's when you need to actually go and see like a doctor. You might need a medical evaluation because you might need to be on medicine. And I'm not a huge proponent of pharmaceuticals, but I know right now in this time, there are people who just need something to get them to a point so that they can actually manage what they're going through. But as far as the question, I think it's important to recognize what are your triggers, what are the things that are really causing you problems, and being proactive, doing the things that you know you can control. We can't control a pandemic. You can't control the fact that school is now on Zoom, but you can control how you respond to these things.
It's good.
So you have
good.
extra time because you're at home. So now make sure that you're connecting with people. Make sure you're talking to your parents if they're people that you feel safe and that you can trust with things. If they are not, then you need to find other people. Call Tony, call your youth leaders. And then hopefully they might recognize that they need to go to the next level. Then you call a professional. You come and talk to a counselor. You come and talk to a psychiatrist. Don't be afraid to ask for the help that you need, and just don't wait too long, because once you're in the hole, it's a lot harder to crawl out. If you're just kind of dipping your toe in the hole, a whole lot easier to have somebody help you pull back.
Yeah, because a lot of people are asking, where do I start? Where do I go to get help? One question, so let me ask you guys this. Where did you go to get help? And then the second question I'll ask, and maybe Heather, you could probably answer this one. What do I do if I can't afford help? Because a lot of people can't afford counseling or therapy. So what do they do in that scenario? So I'd love to hear, how did you guys get help? And then where do you go if you can't afford help? Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate enough I went to Northwest University, and they have an on-site counselor. And so for the first year, like Tony said, as a guy, I was afraid to admit it. I just told all my friends I was going to work an hour early, and I would drive right to the counselor's office and hop in and then go out. And then I started being more honest with people about it. But so that's kind of how, and I actually was on medication. I mean, and like Heather said, not everyone needs to be on medication, but kind of how I think about it, you wouldn't tell a diabetic person not to have insulin, right?
Yeah.
If there is a legit chemical imbalance, which they do blood tests, which they do a lot of things, you shouldn't just be like, I need medicine. But if the doctors go through these tests, which I did go through, they said, hey, I needed something to balance. Honestly, I don't know the hormones or whatever. Heather could speak to that a little bit better. But I had imbalances in my head, and I needed that. And so that's what I did. I took a bunch of tests through the doctor, and they did blood tests and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
that's how they realized that.
Yeah.
I can go ahead and go next. For me, as we were kind of mentioning before, it's a lot easier to dip your toe in and then kind of pull it back out and get help through that. I was not in one of those scenarios. I was all the way in, and it was a lot of that like stereotype of like men can't have emotions and cry and whatever, and so I bottled everything up, and one day it spiraled out. If you want to talk about that, I'm more than willing to. That's another conversation. But so it took a lot of that, and when it spiraled out and everything kind of fell and came crashing down was the time when I called to my youth pastor at the time. I went to another church, and I called and asked him for help. And then from there, I talked to like my parents, and then I talked to a counselor, and through therapy, I was able to get better and learn ways to cope with this. And I worked with myself a lot, and I was one of the people who didn't have to use medication, so I'm quite thankful for that. But it took a lot of personal work.
That's good. Before Armaine, you answer, I just want to answer. A handful of people keep saying, "At what point should I get help?" Immediately. And I think Heather said it. Don't wait till you're all in. Even if you're feeling an ounce of it, it's healthy to just start the conversation with a trusted source, your parent, your youth leaders. That's why we have our youth leaders here. They're not counselors or therapists, but they're here to help point you to the truth and point you to people who can answer these things for you. Armaine, then we'll go Heather, and then we'll go one last question because we are running out of time.
Yeah, when I finally actually sought help, I was forced into it. I actually lived away from my parents at the age of 18. They moved up here to Washington, and I was still in California. But like I said, I was in such a deep depression where I actually tried to end my life, and my roommate found me. I was picked up, and I was picked up and was taken to the ER, and I was taken to a psych ward for a week. And that's when like I said, I was given the help because I had to stay there for a week until I was cleared of all the things. And it was in that moment where I was like, Armaine, what are we doing? Like, what, I need to speak up because I can't imagine I wouldn't be here if my roommate didn't find me in time. I wouldn't be sitting here. And it was, like, I got help, but then I fell through again. I didn't take medication because my dad shamed medication. And if you are on medication, it is not a bad thing to be on medication because if it helps you, then that's good. But if you are not and you want to talk to the doctor about it, talk to the doctor about it. Don't feel ashamed because you have to take something that will mentally help you. But for me, I honestly reached out to the people at church. I reached out to my mentors, and if it wasn't for them, my mental health wouldn't be where it was right now.
That's really good. Heather?
Okay, so if you can't afford counseling, because let's be honest, counseling is expensive, but if you have insurance, most of the time counseling is covered. If your insurance doesn't cover counseling per se, it might be a good idea to be proactive and have your parents call the insurance company and see if they will pay a portion of it, because a lot of times counselors can do what they call a super bill. So it's how much your counseling costs and then what your insurance company is willing to kick in. So there's that. There's also counseling places, which is what Brett referred to. I worked for this really cool place in Edmonds called Affordable Counseling. And the man who runs it is a wonderful man who just wants to deliver counseling to the community. And so he will get on the phone and he will say, what can you afford? And he will talk with you about what you can afford. I had 5 clients that paid $5 a session.
Wow.
And
Wow.
the reason we did it is we just wanted to extend therapy to people who needed it but didn't have access to it. You can also, if you ever feel in danger, that you feel like I can't keep myself safe, You can literally walk into any hospital and tell them, I do not feel safe, I'm afraid I'm gonna harm myself, and they have to take action. If they don't, they get in trouble. So you will get the help that you need. And then there's always the national hotline for suicide prevention.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna give you the number right now. So if you wanna text it into your phone, you can do it for yourself or you can do it for somebody else.
Good.
If you ever know of somebody that is saying anything remotely scary to you, even if you think they're probably joking, don't rationalize that they're joking. If they are saying something, you speak up. And so here's the national hotline. It's 1-800-273-8255. And you can put it in your phone, and right now, if people are looking at you, don't say, well, I'm doing it. Just say, I'm doing this for my friend. You don't have to say I'm doing it for me, but this is a safeguard for you guys. And this is
Good.
what I give out to people. Have it on you all the time. Because right now, we're living in a time that's really scary, so you never know when you're standing next to somebody who's gonna need this number.
Yeah.
And they have trained counselors who will talk people out of hurting themselves and get them the resources that they need.
Yeah.
One more thing. If you do have insurance, but it doesn't cover a lot, or if you want to go to a specific counselor, ask the counselor if they do sliding scale. That's a thing where they find out how much your income is, and they will base their charges on how much you can afford.
That's good.
So there are resources, but you have to ask. So don't let yourself be embarrassed and not want to ask. Speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself.
Can you repeat that number again? We
Yeah.
keep getting asked that.
1-800-273-8255.
Awesome. Brett?
And then just one last thing. Counseling's awesome. So for just
Yeah.
like for anyone out there who thinks like going to a counselor is like wimpy, I've seen a counselor off and on for 7 years, and I can honestly say I wouldn't be like alive if it wasn't for my counselor.
That's it.
When I started going to them, I was suicidal. And you would never have known because I was the most outgoing person and everyone thought I was good. But there is such a stigma, and I think we're like starting to get away with the stigma. Like your guys' generation is starting to going to a counselor, that's okay. But even all counselors have counselors. Like going to counseling is such a good and freeing thing, and I just anyone out there who's like, I'm afraid to do it. Like if you feel like you need to do it, do it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Counselors have counselors.
Yeah.
I have somebody I go see because even though I know the stuff, I don't always apply the stuff. Sometimes you just need a coach to encourage you, to remind you of the things to do.
That's good. I have a counselor. I'm 100% unashamed about it. Ariel has a counselor. She meets with her every other week. Amanda's mom, Ann Hopkins, is a counselor to many people in our youth ministry and at our church. And Heather, are you accepting patients right now too? Or so if you want to ever consider counseling with Heather, Heather can meet with you at the end. She'll have her business card here if you want to meet with her, or if you want to point them to someone maybe that you can help them with, that'd be great.
Yeah, we also have another counselor in our church. Her name's Kristen Overman, and she's down in Mill Creek, and she's fantastic, and she does a certain kind of therapy that is really, really effective for depression specifically, and
Awesome.
also for PTSD and anybody who's had trauma. So Kristen Overman is awesome.
Yeah. Here's my commitment to you guys. We are getting blasted with questions. We have to wrap this up. I want to land the plane here for a moment. I'm going to try to answer each of your questions to the best of my knowledge. I'll probably tap into Heather and some of these people on stage to help me. And we will try to respond to your message by the end of this week because there is a lot of messages, and we want you to feel heard. We're having a lot of talks about eating disorders, a lot about that, a lot about LGBTQ. How do I feeling unaccepted? What do I do? So there's been a lot of that. A couple. What do you do if your friend is being harmed right now or whatnot? And it's just heavy stuff. So I wanna maybe end it with this. You guys are clearly all here, and you're alive, and you're doing well. And I think we can all agree, we've said it before, 2020 was hard. It was not my favorite year, that's for sure. But we've made it. How have you found happiness in this season? What do you do to find happiness? How do you find it? What are you doing? Because I believe this, joy is a gift from the Holy Spirit. So joy is a gift from the Holy Spirit, but God didn't create you just to be happy. Like God doesn't owe us happy, but he wants us to be happy. So God's okay with you and I being happy and joyful, even in circumstance. So how have you found happiness in this season? What does happiness look like for you? Brett, we know you got a girlfriend now, so...
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just kidding. Codependency. I'm not promoting codependency. I'm just saying he's got a girlfriend, so we're happy
We
for
only
him.
hang out like 3-4 days a week. That's it.
Yeah.
But I have found joy in this season. I have great community. Tony's one of my good friends. Honestly, as silly as it is, fantasy sports and Xbox has connected me with people. I'm in a fantasy sports league with a bunch of my high school buddies, and so we connect. And there's a couple buddies. We play poker every week, and Pat's one of my good buddies, and we.
Are you promoting gambling in the house of God?
Whatever.
You tithe on those winnings, right?
Yes, amen.
Okay,
amen.
good.
But we at the beginning of quarantine, we started playing. We got an app online, and me, Pat, and Grant would just Skype or FaceTime. Skype's not a thing. Never mind. We would FaceTime, and we just play for a couple hours, right? And things like that has brought me a lot of joy in this season. And yeah, I don't know. For me.
That's good. Yeah.
I can go next. One of the things that I do for each day is give myself some form of goal or something to achieve. It gives each day like a purpose. So whether that's a school assignment and I try and motivate myself to have excitement towards it, or just doing some form of activity. A lot of what can make you happy right now, which helped me, was, even if you're introverted, because I am, is reaching out to people. Like we've said, we've all mentioned, even if you don't talk to that many people or you haven't talked to this person forever, reaching out. I started playing a lot more Xbox, talking to people, getting to start playing again with some friends, some old friends. Recently, one of my friends from 4th grade, 3rd grade, him and I just started talking. We started playing again. So just keeping that community however you can, finding motivation or a goal for each day. That's what I do.
It's good. Armaine?
Well, my husband won't like this, but online shopping has made me happy. But I honestly have found happiness in cooking and baking. If you, Johnny has the benefit of this, but I literally will cook and bake every single week. I've found new recipes. We just got an air fryer, so I've literally used that every single day. But I also try to journal as much as I can. I haven't been able to do that lately, and also, like Carson said, move your body, actually work out, even if it's a 20-minute walk or a 30-minute walk, or just if you have weights at home, lift some weights, because sometimes when we're stressed out, you just need to release that stress, and working out is the best way to do that.
Yeah, that's really good.
For one thing, I had to get out, like I described earlier. I had to leave. I had to get out of the house. I felt isolated, and I needed to be in the community. And even if that was walking around the town center, even though it was kind of empty, it helped me, just move me out of my depressed state at home. Also, I really had to focus on gratitude. What am I grateful for?
So
I'm grateful I
good.
don't have COVID. I'm grateful that, I have dogs who are so adorable and keep me company at my house. So I started thinking about things that I'm really grateful for, because depression can't exist in the same place that gratitude is living.
Yeah.
So I was fostering that attitude of gratitude. And then what I really found helped me was getting my mind off me. Poor me, I don't get to graduate at my commencement. Poor me, I have to do Zoom classes for my final final time of my graduate school. Poor me, I have to stay home when I really want to see my friends. And when I stopped doing the poor me and thought, what can I do for other people? How can I serve other people? What's going on at the church that I can volunteer for? Even though I have to wear a mask, I'll still go. Getting your focus off yourself and seeing what you can do for other people. Reaching out to your friends who are vulnerable to depression. Talk to your, more introverted, sensitive friends, because they are a lot of times, your artsy friends, a lot of times those are the ones that are super vulnerable. I mean, it's true. I mean, they're sensitive and they're good at what they do because they are artsy, but it's because they're sensitive.
Yeah.
So check in on them.
Yeah, that's good. I think you nailed it, Heather. Gratitude, being grateful for what you have today. Breath in your lungs, a church family that loves you, your Venture Youth family, leaders that sacrifice every Wednesday night to be here with you. I mean, and I think you said it, not having that victim mindset. Woe is me. My life is so hard. I get it. Life is life, and it is what it is. But, hey, this is so good. We are getting blown up. We got even a lot of questions about our relationships with our devices. Can this cause anxiety and depression? Quick answer is yes. And comparison and a lack of contentment. And can we give a huge thank you to the panel? Awesome. Online, thank you for watching. Hey, I want to encourage you guys, why don't you go ahead and stand to your feet. You can bow your head and close your eyes, and thank you guys so much for being up here. If you want to grab your stool, that would be awesome. Just want to encourage you to bow your head and close your eyes. We're going to end here, and we're just going to, in a time of prayer and worship. Tonight was obviously just so different. We didn't have all the music and the lights and the games and everything.